to Discograffiti, the deep dive podcast for music obsessives that gives maniacs like you and me the chance to connect with a brotherhood obsessed with rating the entire discography of every single artist and band that ever mattered. I'm your host, Dave Gebroe, and when I was a kid, I thought I loved music. But no, that was only the beginning. I almost lost my life, and in the process, it made music a top priority in a way I'd thought was completely unimaginable. I quit my job, went all in on Discograffiti, and never looked back. And so, with 3 new episodes each week, you're going to gain a comprehensive knowledge of an act's history and output in the time it takes to listen to one album. Each new guest swings a hard left into an area you either had no idea you needed to know about, or know all about and can't believe you're not alone out there. And in this episode, we'll be turning our spray cans on love! Along with our special guest, Johnny Echols. This episode is part of a series called 7 and 7 and 7 is, the definitive 21-episode story of Arthur Lee and Love, which I've consciously crafted to act as the ultimate repository of fact and opinion on one of the greatest bands to ever walk the face of the earth, the almighty Love. It includes 13 episodes heralding the return of Discograffiti host OG Joe Kennedy, 6 episodes from a 4.5-hour interview with OG Love mainstay Johnny Echols, and 2 episodes from a 2.5-hour interview with the members of Baby Lemonade, who've served as Love now for coming up on 35 years. This is part 2, the first part of my interview with Johnny, which covers the same time period as episode 1, but in more granular detail and heard directly from the man who lived it. It's Love's early years as best friends Arthur Lee and Johnny Echols spend copious amounts of time inspiring each other, all of it building toward the moment they record their very first album as Love. Here are just a few of the many things that Johnny discusses with Discograffiti in this podcast. What Arthur was like as a kid, Johnny's relationship with Billy Preston and the time they saw the Beatles together, Johnny's holy shit moment of creative epiphany, whether or not he thinks Hendrix borrowed from his early showboating style, the realities of Love's compromised touring strategy, and Johnny's ongoing relationship with ex-Love member Bobby Beausoleil. Coming up, we've got an incredible deep dive series on Jefferson Airplane and a hell of a lot more. So don't miss out. Open up your listening app right now and subscribe. And away we go then! As if from some kind of fable-based rock and roll storybook, the core of the band that became Love was 2 black men born in Memphis, but relocated separately and moved as if by the hands of fate to Los Angeles as children, Arthur Lee and today's guest. This man's style as a lead guitarist has been talked about in hushed, awed tones for 60-plus years now. But don't take it from me. Here's what Arthur Lee has to say about the man. The idea of putting a band together of my own came from him. Not only was he playing the best, but he was upstaging all the other guitar players in town too. He was playing behind his back, through his legs, behind his head, and even with his teeth. Talk about putting on a show. And this was before Jimi Hendrix made it big doing all that shit. I really did admire him. He was neighbors with Ornette Coleman and Ella Fitzgerald, and friends with Billy Preston and Marilyn McCoo. Also, as one of the chief creative forces in one of the greatest bands that ever walked the face of the earth, the entirety of his recorded output as a member of Love was complete by the time he was 20 years old, at which point the man had a life to live, and live it he did. And now, even more miraculously, he's back in the captain's seat, piloting Love's legacy, which is thankfully in quite capable hands. Lads and ladies out there in the eternal sunset strip of the spotless mind, it's totally possible that there's an alternate universe out there somewhere where each and every night at Beatolitos, you can count on this man peeling off an absolutely killer 1-hour rendition of Smokestack Lightnin'. That is, unless being reined in by Los Angeles city limits is no longer or never was of any interest whatsoever, seeing as he's the one calling the shots now. Will you please pay your shekels, but hold your heckles? It's Love's Commander-in-Chief, Johnny Echols.
Hi, man. How are you doing? I hope I can live up to that intro.
Oh, man, you already have, and then some. No question. It is beyond an honor to have you on.
It's my pleasure, man.
I want to say right at the head that, so much gratitude and thanks to Willie Aaron for setting this up.
Yeah, I love Willie. He's my boy. We play together, and he's cool. I love him.
Yeah, Willie's a great guy. We're good friends. And this was an inevitability that I asked him to reach out to you. And I hope I live up to the kinds of questions that you deserve being asked, honestly.
Well, I'll answer them the best I can.
Much appreciated.
Let's do it.
All right. So you grew up one street away from Arthur in Memphis, and your families were even friends. How close were you back then, or is it too far back to really remember much?
Well, Arthur's a couple of years older than I am, and at that age, we wouldn't necessarily hang out together, but he did kind of watch out for me when the other kids would pick on me or whatever. But I was about 5 or 6 or so when we left, and so I think Arthur was like 7 or 8. Something like that. I can't recall exactly what our ages were when we left Memphis, but Arthur's father was a trumpet player in Jimmy Lunsford's orchestra, and his mom and he got divorced. And so she wanted to start anew, and so she moved with Arthur to Los Angeles, where she met and married Clinton Lee, and Arthur was adopted by Clinton, and he became Arthur Lee. He was previously Arthur Taylor. And just by serendipity, my family decided to move to Los Angeles as well, and we both ended up on 27th Street in Los Angeles, and I'm just a couple doors down. I'm in an apartment, and Arthur's parents had a home, but we're like 2 doors down from each other. So, and it wasn't planned. They didn't know. I just was inside, and I heard him, "Give me the ball, give me the..." I knew that voice immediately because they were in the street playing touch football or something, and I went down, and there he was.
Now, see, to me, you say it so matter-of-factly, but looking back at the very beginning of your life, it's seriously as if you and Arthur were mandated by the cosmos itself to never be apart. So, as an older gentleman, what kind of view do you take on moving almost directly next door by chance to Arthur in Los Angeles? Because to me, that's crazy.
Yeah, as I say, that's serendipity. But that, as I mentioned, I think that's was supposed to be, because we just hit it off. We were both mixed race Black people, and we both loved the same kind of music. We were both steeped in rhythm and blues from our childhood. Our parents played gospel, rhythm and blues, and country. There was this gentleman, Rufus Thomas, and we'd listen to WDIA in Memphis, and Rufus Thomas was the DJ, and they do the dozens and talk about each other's mamas during the chat periods. But we got to listen to him and another gentleman. He was a country guy named Dewey Phillips, and we listened to him, and also many of the gospel stations we would listen to, because my father loved the Pilgrim Travelers, the Soul Stirrers, and the Five Blind Boys. So that was our base. We were rhythm and blues and gospel and a bit of country thrown in. So we had eclectic tastes from the start, and so it just grew.
You had some amazing neighbors and friends growing up, like real force of nature people in the music industry. Tell me specifically, if you wouldn't mind, about your relationship with Billy Preston, and did the two of you wind up keeping in touch as adults after you had both experienced success?
Yes, we kept in touch. Actually, we were Billy Preston and the Soul Brothers for a couple of years, so we had a group, and that consisted of Michael Bolivar, who is a fantastic jazz player. He's just way up there. And there was Michael Dowd, who was with the East Side Kids, and he's passed away now. And myself and Billy, and then John Fleckenstein, who later went to the Standells, and he played as part of Love. But those were guys that had played with me before we kind of morphed into Love. But yeah, we kept in touch, Billy and I, and played together quite a bit.
Because it seems like there's a world where you could have ended up with Billy in a group easily.
Well, yeah, as I said, we were in a group, Billy Preston and the Soul Brothers, and we were, but
I mean, instead of Love, I mean...
Oh, yeah, it very easily could have happened. And also, Henry Vestine, later of Canned Heat, was also part of my world, and we had, as I said, I love blues, and I wanted to do that, and Arthur did too. But he also had kind of other ideas about what he wanted to do musically. But I was kind of steeped in R&B and wanted to do that. So Henry and I, we were seriously contemplating after Love and even before of putting together a rhythm and blues group, or just a blues kind of fusion where we have kind of a hard-edged rock blues. And at that precise moment, canned heat started to take off. And so there was no, he wasn't going to leave. And so I didn't blame him. But, I had gotten to the point with love. Well, we'll discuss that. But we were going in different directions musically, and we were constantly at loggerheads. And so it was time to move on.
So Arthur has flat out said that the idea of putting a band together of his own came right from you. So can you tell me in what ways that you wound up making Arthur aware of his own abilities? All right, that concludes your free sneak peek into today's bonus episode. If you want to hear the rest of it, just visit patreon.com/Discograffiti and either purchase this podcast by itself for $4, or better yet, subscribe at the major tier and get access to Discograffiti's 3 weekly episodes. That's Friday's main episode, the Sunday Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound podcast. That's our podcast within a podcast featuring Patreon members as guests, and your Tuesday bonus episode. Please keep in mind this is entirely how I support my wife and 7-year-old son, so don't risk feeling badly about yourself by not supporting Discograffiti. Become a member so you don't miss a single thing at patreon.com/Discograffiti.